So young Republicans are now getting fired after it was leaked out a bunch of their Telegram chats. I want to go over this and some other things, and let's jump right in. So this was the headline then today. It's revolting. More young Republican chat members out of jobs as condemnation intensifies. And this is a follow-up in Politico to a story before, and I can't even really even say it on YouTube. I'll just say it says, I love, the mustache guy. Leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat. If you want to go through all of their chats, you can certainly find them online. You can see some of them here. I'll just say this. It's kind of what you would expect it to be, right? It's going to be against certain groups of people, certain kind of language, aggressive against women, all these kind of things, right? This stuff. Nothing's really shocking here other than this is what you get when the head of the party is Trump, right? And put on top of that, the toxic U.S. culture. And I say U.S. culture because, yes, it happens all throughout the USA. And unfortunately, this is what it is. If I mention it, that it happens in more than one, not just Republicans, can happen with many groups, people get upset and they'll say, no, Chris, you have to attack Republicans more, right? And I want you to hear yourselves. That's literally, I'll see it in comments. People get so mad if I mention that. It's, hey guys, it could go actually beyond Republicans. It could be a massive problem in the USA. People actually get upset on said things. But I do acknowledge that Trump, as being president, unfortunately, makes the situation worse, right? He's basically internet troll number one, or you could argue Elon Musk is, but both those guys together, internet troll number one, internet troll number two, that sort of represents where the USA is right now. So for example, right, you got all these Republicans getting fired now. Then you got Trump complaining about how he was covered in Time magazine. I guess it was a positive story on him, but he didn't like the photo, right? Think about that. Like, and publication does a great story on you, and then you are upset about the photo. And this was then the headline: the worst of all time, Trump rails against super bad, according to Trump, magazine cover. And I'll let you guys be the judge if you think the photo is good or bad. What did he say here? He said, Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me. Okay, so he acknowledges that. But the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair, and then they had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. I never liked taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is super bad picture and deserved to be called out. What are they doing and why? So, and what else do these young Republicans learn from Trump? I mean, it's hard to even talk about this because it's just so stupid. It's like every day we're inundated with this dumbness, or you could talk about idiocracy or whatever. It's what it is. All right, so what's going on here? The leaders of Republican groups throughout the country worried that would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked, but they kept typing away, right? Talking about various groups, using various kind of words that are inappropriate, And then I guess essentially they were charging, this is probably stuff to parties and stuff like that, not paying it back. What this ends up being, and I was thinking about the most simplest way to describe these young Republicans or the Trump culture. It's like frat boys out of control, right? Or, frat boys that spend mommy's and daddy's money, drinking, doing whatever, substances that they're up to, and calling whatever services. You kind of get that culture, right? And it's nothing shocking here. If you've ever seen a movie, I'll give you an example, like the Wolf on Wall Street kind of movie. And in this day and age, people actually worship that kind of culture, right? It's like if you've got money and you want to behave like Trump and do all the Trumpy stuff that you do, and put in the most basic terms, cheating your wives, cheating your girlfriends, that kind of stuff, right? In any number of ways. And it becomes so normalized in the USA, there's people who dream of that lifestyle. And then they go throughout their lives and they get multiple divorces, multiple kids, and multiple partners. And that's, I guess, a big part of Trump's administration. And I don't mention it all the time because it's a sensitive topic in the USA. It's just laughable, like how ridiculous this stuff is. But it represents an overall sickness in the U.S. I'm just being frank with you guys, and I'm trying to have an adult conversation with people. But again, it's like it's laughable because it's so stupid. But how do I even address this? I think a lot of it has to do with kids these days don't have good role models. I think that's a good way to put it. So for example, let's say you wanted to look to JD Vance as being your role model. I know you guys are laughing like, okay, now we're just, off your rocker. But, JD Vance will even, so his defense will be, well, maybe those young Republicans aren't that great, but look at all the bad people in the Democrat Party, and he'll tweet out some text regarding that. And then people on social media then are going to fight over who's worse, people talking about Charlie Kirk or people who are in this young Republican group, right? That's essentially what all these people are talking about here. And for me, I don't even have an account on Twitter. I'll look at Twitter, but I don't post anything ever on there because I think the whole thing is toxic. And this is a good reflection of U.S. culture, just people fighting all the time. And do I preference one side over? Sure, right? I'll tell you the truth on that stuff. But I also say there's certain things I just don't want to engage in. I don't want to spend all my time tweeting out 100 and whatever characters, fighting over memes and stuff like that. But that's much of U.S. culture. And like I was saying, though, unfortunately, this is like all throughout, because when people, talk about, say, if we remove Trump's administration, will things get better? I'm just saying, guys, it is toxic in the USA and many U.S. work environments. That's something that I never dreamed to be a part of. I never wanted to be part of corporate America. For people who are in that world, you probably know what it's like to try to climb up the corporate ladder. It's a lot of backstabbing going on. You got to form alliances. It's basically a reality TV show. And usually, in my experience at least, from what I've seen from, not just my experience, but other people, it's not really about picking the best qualified people. It's about who can play the politics of the office the best, right? I pulled up this movie. It's called Bombshell. You can check this out. This shows sort of the toxic culture over at Fox News. It's not isolated. I just want to make that clear. And it's not just guys do this stuff. You could say women do this stuff as well. It's like part of U.S. culture. And even if you bring up this topic, people get upset. That's how bad it is. But you know what? Sometimes I feel like just telling you guys the truth about this stuff. And it's how can I explain it? My opinion on any of these topics that when we talk about on a daily basis, I just try to come across as like, hey, I'm a regular person. I want to talk to regular people. I don't want to have like endless, fake rage all over social media or trolling each other nonstop. I want to figure out how can we get out of this world. The issue is that for many people, they find this stuff entertaining. So right now, just for example, explain this whole scenario. You had Charlie Kirk. He passed away, as you guys know. But his whole show was based on people arguing with each other. That was his whole show. It wasn't a real discussion. It wasn't about education whatsoever. It was a college dropout that would go to college campuses and argue with college kids. And he would selectively edit stuff to make people look bad. That's basically what it was. And he even got called out on South Park over that. And then ultimately, you're right, he was killed, as you guys know. And I don't condone any of the stuff at all. I'm calling it all toxic. And then people are fighting over which side is more toxic. That's USA culture. Like, let's fight over which side is more toxic. And I point to you guys to this study recently, which is really telling. It's nothing shocking, and none of the stuff is shocking, but it helps you understand the world that we live in, right? Kids who use social media score lower on reading, memory, and memory tests. Basically, it was actually quite interesting. The more exposure to social media, the worse you do on your tests, right? And even just a little bit of exposure, you'll score 1 or 2 points lower than people who have minimal. And it's gotten to the point to where I think they're talking about, like, say, 13-year-olds, something like that, could use upwards of 3 hours plus of social media. And I think a lot of kids these days are on their phones nonstop, where schools are probably gonna have to ban said things. And I'm just mentioning the social media stuff because I think a lot of this kind of culture, right? All these texts and these Republicans with this stuff, I like I said, I don't think it's isolated, because USA, the way things are done and things are chosen, they prefer to pick certain kind of candidates that look a certain kind of way and say certain kind of things on TV to please whatever TV audience that they're going for. And that's kind of how it is. And essentially what it ends up being is the people who become famous in USA are the ones who can have the best insults and the best one-liners, and who can tweet out the most stupid stuff on social media the fastest. That's what it is. And if you actually really wanted to solve the nation's problems, I don't think it'd be a crazy thing to say, hey, I want to sit down and talk like adults here, and I want to bring in the most qualified people that I can, regardless of which state you come from, which city you come from, your religion, or your background. It doesn't matter, right? You want to put together a team that are capable and competent. And I don't think I'm saying anything crazy. And it's weird though, because again, the way much of the USA is done these days, it's all about loyalty and which connections do you have, etc. And it becomes a very, very toxic environment in that world. So that's sort of my point of view on this stuff. I know it's I kind of meander when we have these discussions, but I do want to let you know that there are actually real people out there who can talk like adults and do. But unfortunately, though, it seems like the children are running the roost at the moment. So do appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.